Welcome to the Engaging People podcast. My name's Charles Rogel. I'm a senior consultant here at DecisionWise. I'll be moderating today's session. Joining me is Dan Deka.
Hello, Charles. And hello, everyone.
Dan is one of our senior consultants here at DecisionWise as well. And as our ongoing series in terms of interviewing and helping you get to know our consultants, we've got Dan here today with us to learn more about him and his background and experience here at DecisionWise. So, Dan, I guess to start off, would you like to give us a little bit of background on your life, your experience, where you're from, all that fun stuff?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I grew up in Hawaii. My dad was stationed there, so I grew up in Hawaii. So I'm a surfer. So that comes up a lot in my interactions and in my coaching and
military
business.
Kid then?
Yeah. We moved around a bunch and then ended up in Hawaii.
Okay.
So I love surfing. Went to school in California, Loyola Marymount Business. Started out in film and then moved into business. And then San Diego State for graduate school. Got my MBA there. Then I met my wife and we moved around the country. A bunch of different jobs. I started out at Packard Bell in a call center as an employee relations person. Then she started a business in Arizona. We moved there. I worked for a software development firm as a recruiter and a generalist, HR generalist. Mm-hmm. Then I worked for Wells Fargo as a site HR person for a large check processing plant. Then I took a job with Capital One in Richmond, Virginia, and was an HR business partner supporting IT. And then I managed employee relations for the company. And that's where I got trained as an executive coach. While I was at Capital One, I went to Georgetown University, got certified as an executive coach.
Oh, neat.
And started doing that work there. Then I took a job at Micron Semiconductors, came back to Boise, Idaho, back west. Uh-huh. Did a bunch of organizational effectiveness work, survey work. Then I worked for my church, doing leadership development in like 100 countries, which was really interesting. Then I started my own executive coaching practice and then started here at DecisionWise.
Awesome. So I feel like I learned something new about you every time we talk. Oh. And even though our offices are right next door to each other, this is very enlightening for me. It's really fun. So tell me, what kind of brought you and drew you into kind of the HR field and coaching and all this kind of stuff?
The HR field was probably, I really enjoy being with people at transitions. Sounds a little bit strange, but like if somebody's in the hospital or something's going on, I love visiting people at those type of transitional points.
Yeah.
I find first they're really open to ideas. They're open to change. And so I've always been drawn to those transitions. So human resources was a nice fit. And then organizational effectiveness and organization design was a really nice fit, because you're trying to create those transitions, either individually or for teams or for organizations. And then coaching fit right in there just to build my skill set around how do you navigate that type of transition with someone? How do you create an environment where they feel comfortable? How do you explore? And how do you help them achieve what they want to achieve? And so those all kind of fit together.
Neat. Okay. So tell us a little bit about kind of how you spend your time here at DecisionWise.
Well, it's split up. I really like the variety of work here. It's split up between engagement, 360s, and then coaching. Yeah. So I do the engagement work and working with teams and executive teams to create engagement surveys and then to take those results and use them to improve engagement in organizations. And then I do the 360 work, help design those. Also have been in a pretty big role around our process, our 360 debrief principles, how we do that, and updates to our process. And so I'll do 360 debriefs with individuals and organizations and teams. And then I have coaching work too, where I'm coaching individuals and coaching teams. So I like the combination of all three of those. I love coaching. That's probably what I feel like I'm put on the planet to do and what I enjoy the most. But I feel like I'm a better coach when I do the engagement work and I stay connected to that. And then when I'm doing the 360 work, which is really like a little mini coaching session. Yeah. So if you can have an engaging conversation and help someone identify what they want to achieve, use the 360 results, and make progress in an hour, then a coaching relationship it seems kind of drawn out. And it's just good practice for it. Yeah. So I really like the diversity of the work here.
Excellent. And so, all the consultants and coaches here kind of come from various backgrounds. They all seem to arrive here with kind of their angle or specialty in terms of how they work and even their toolbox of things that they like to use when working with clients. So what's your approach when you're working with your clients typically?
I think I've been really influenced by my coaching training and certification. basically with this predominant value and belief that the answer is within the person.
Yeah.
That's an important part when you're coaching. When I'm consulting, people are usually hiring me and paying me to give them the answer. But when I'm coaching, I'm trying to help the person identify that, and I believe that it's in them. So a lot of my work, whether it's around the 360s or engagement or individual coaching, it moves from that place where I believe that people have the answers in them. The organizations have the answers in them. And I really enjoy the journey of helping people find those answers. And that's probably one of the biggest things that kind of motivates and directs most of my interactions. Because when you're in that position, then you're really interested in people, you're listening a lot, and you're trying to find, and you believe that the answer is there. I think that just calms me in a lot of ways. Because there will be a lot of times I'm like, I have no idea what to do right now.
Yeah.
But then when you have this idea of like, hey, I'm a partner with my client and it's there, we're going to find it, it just creates that type of interaction.
Cool. So this kind of leads us right into the next question I usually have. And what kind of, I guess, experiences or stories do you have to share about clients where you're working with that kind of help you get to, or at least uncover that story, help them find the answers within? What kind of experiences have you had where that's been successful?
Yeah, I can describe as an illustration of that belief how we do our 360s, and I have this common interaction with people.
Yeah.
Most organizations, when they they do 360s, they say, hey, here's your report, here's your high scores, here's your low scores, and how do we make your low scores higher? And that's kind of what the bar is. But what we do here at DecisionWise is we ask people to identify. We shift the center of that conversation and say, hey, what do you want to achieve in the next 6 to 12 months? Mm-hmm. And we make that the center. And then we say, how can we use the 360 to facilitate the attainment of your goals? And usually, from a client experience, like you're asking, when I say that to people, because they get on a call with a 360 debrief and they're like, I know what's going to happen. You're going to tell me where I'm good. You're going to tell me where I'm not, and we're going to try to improve that. And I go, well, not really. What do you want to accomplish? And let's make that the center. And then let's see what the 360 highlights and points out for that. And when I say that to people, the majority of time they're like, ooh, that's different.
That sounds much more fun.
Yeah, that sounds fun. And it's way more fun, on my side too, where we're working together towards their goals. Mm-hmm. So that's probably an illustration, and it just happens almost every time because the bar is pretty set on 360s. And then when we introduce, like, this is how we do it, how does that sound? They're like, oh, that sounds great. And then we move at a kind of a different pace, a more enthusiastic pace, a more personal pace to help them identify what they want to achieve.
Great. So to kind of wrap this up a little bit, how would you kind of summarize your philosophy and interaction with clients?
I think a big one is the answer's in them. Uh-huh. And then another thing that I would say has been a big part of me, again, comes from my coaching background and my executive coaching background, is a lot of times people come to me and they'll say, hey, Dan, I want to improve some type of skill set. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to delegate more. I want to communicate more. I want to share more. I want to lead the team more. And that's the result that they want. So I go, that's great. But what I've found is if we focus on their thinking, which leads to their feelings, which leads to their actions, that leads to results. Mm-hmm. And so most people say, hey, I want to change something in my results. And we end up going and identifying what's the thinking that's driving this. And so I think that's probably a big part of the interaction too is, yes, you're asking me to improve these results. Of course, that's what we want. But let's go a little bit deeper. And I believe what happens is if we can change our thinking just a little bit, those feelings, actions, and results will happen much more naturally. Yeah. I've heard it said by that trying to change our behaviors is almost like doing violence unto ourselves, which sounds a little bit strange, but it's like, I'm going to change. Uh-huh. And if we become more aware of our thinking, and then we ask ourselves, or a coach asks you, is that working for you? And what might be some other options around your thinking? When we change our thinking and increase our awareness, it increases our choices, our options, and that can have a huge impact on our actions and the results that we achieve. So that I really enjoy that interaction with clients around those topics.
Excellent. Well, everyone, you can tell Dan loves to coach people and has some awesome conversations, it sounds like, as well. Dan, I know one unique thing you like to do, being a big fan of music, is to provide a recommendation for a playlist or an artist or a song to some of your clients. And so I'm wondering if you have any recommendations for our audience today on some of the latest things you've been listening to.
Well, actually, that's interesting that you would say that, because sometimes after every coaching interaction I have with them, I'll have an hour coaching call. Then I'll summarize the call.
Yeah.
And I'll send them an email. And usually I am writing that to some soundtrack.
Sure.
And I'll tell my clients, like, hey, by the way, if you want a soundtrack to this, this is what I wrote it to. And probably the one that I write most of my 360 or coaching summaries is an artist, Olafur Arnolds.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah, I check him out.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, thank you very much. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Charles.